Hey, good morning. It's Friday, April 2nd. It's Good Friday. And it's amazing, even in this culture where we have so little respect for God, today even the stock markets are taking the day off because of Good Friday. The main reason this is Good Friday is because this is the day when Jesus makes everything good. It certainly wasn't good for Christ in terms of what he endured. But his suffering made it possible for goodness to exist, because without that, there would be no goodness. Without this sacrifice, there would be no goodness in this world at all. It's that pivotal. Again, it's one of these things that we tend not to think about very much, but the only reason that there is any good is because Jesus lived the life that was good, and this day exchanged that good life for all the sin and garbage that you and I create so that there could be goodness. Jesus is standing before Pilate. This is in John, you get the narrative in John chapter 19. Jesus is standing before Pilate. And this is after the discussion that he has with Pilate, when Pilate questions him. And he asked Jesus these questions, what is truth? And then he asked Jesus, are you a king? And Jesus says, yes, I am a king. And Pilate is shaken to his core by the demeanor and calmness of Christ before him. And he tells Christ, I have power to do whatever I want with you. And Jesus says, you have no power that's not given to you. So Pilate is truly a shaken man. He hands Jesus over to his soldiers, who beat on him, spit on him, torture him, whip him, and then take this crown of thorns and press it down on Jesus' head. And then put a royal robe on him, and then bring him back before Pilate. Pilate brings Jesus before the Jews, the Jewish leaders, and he says to them, shall I crucify your king? And the Jews are filled with anger and rage, screaming, we have no king but Caesar. This is the people of God screaming at Pilate, we have no king but Caesar. The commitment of Jesus to honor his Father at that moment, we can't even begin to describe it, because the armies of heaven would have smashed in a moment to make things right. But Jesus knew that he had to complete the mission that was before him. Why are the Jews screaming? And that's the question I want to ask you this morning. Who is your king? Why are they screaming, we have no king but Caesar? We see there was something about Jesus that didn't sit right with the authorities and the Jewish leaders right from the beginning. He was a common man, had a common father, had a common trade. He was a carpenter. When he spoke as someone who had authority. He didn't need all the circumstance and the titles and the ceremony like the Pharisees and the scribes did. But as was noted at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, people respected Jesus because he spoke as one who had authority. He spoke with authority. He didn't placate the rulers. He wasn't interested in helping the Jewish ruling class enjoy their richness and the bounty that they were having off the land. They were quite happy being wealthy. No, Jesus represented something quite different. You see, if Jesus had represented a golden crown, a magnificent crown, the crown of a royal king, the response of the crowd would have been quite different. But instead, there was this crown of thorns. And the Jewish leaders wanted no part of that. But you see, that crown of thorns represents everything that Jesus came to heal. And the question I have for you and for me this morning, what do we identify with? Who is your king? Would you be more happy if you served a king who had a crown of thorns, a royal, huge, magnificent looking crown? Or one who, if we want to identify with Jesus, we have to identify with that crown of thorns. Because those thorns were there because of my sin and your sin. Those thorns represented what Jesus was all about. Do we want to be identified with that? You see, in our natural flesh, we say, no, I don't want to be. But Jesus identified, took on my sin and your sin, and made us right with God by his goodness. You see, that is truly the role of a king. This Good Friday morning, who is your king? Do you want to be a king with this magnificent royal crown? Or do you want a king who loved you so much, sacrificed so much, and honored his father so much, that he wore this blood-stained crown of thorns so that we can know life and freedom and goodness? Which king do you want? Which crown do you want to identify with? Who is your king? Let's identify with Christ. Let's let Good Friday represent for us what is truly good in this life. And that's the thought for today. And Lord willing, we'll see you tonight. Contemplate Good Friday today, what that means. Have a good day thinking about those things. We'll see you tonight.